will they be Bush supporters, or will they begin to, what we call in politics, become trimmers?
Well, embrace might be a little strong, because if the numbers are like they were for the Democratic debate, there are going to be lots of people watching. Not all of them dyed-in-the-wool, hardcore-based Republicans.
So they'll be looking for the general election independent.
They're going to be looking for the general election independent. This is not the place, your debate will not be the place to speak only or solely to a room of 50 hardcore Republican-based supporters.
Lois, do you think they'll all be trooping in line trying to show their party loyalty by showing their Bush loyalty? Or how do you think they're going to nuance this thing?
Well, I think obviously they have to play a little bit to the base because they need to win the nomination first. But they're facing an extremely unpopular war, so they have to thread a very narrow needle on how they want to deal with the war and still, you know, basically, you know, embrace Bush a little bit. I mean, I think what you're going to hear them saying is, we don't think this is a good war, but we don't think we should surrender.
John, what's your thinking? Are they going to hew to the Bush line, or are they going to try to show some distance? In a way, say, for example, without being cruel about it, George Bush Sr., the first President Bush, was able to run in 1988 and win, sort of as a Reagan third term, but also he said, I'm going to be kinder and gentler. A little nuance from the hard line of Reagan. Do you think that they'll try something like that along that line?
You know, I'm guessing what they'll say is, look, I don't want to get in an argument about the last 8 years. I'm talking about the next 4 years, the next 8 years. So it's going to really be up to us to frame questions that don't allow them to hedge like that. Where do they stand on many of the key Bush issues and key Bush decisions? Do they agree, or would they do things differently?
Well, that won't be so hard, it seems, with some of the outlying candidates. Let's talk about some of the candidates, Lois, who may not be in the top of the list right now. Ron Paul, a libertarian U.S. congressman from Texas for years now, who has been involved in Republican politics and sometimes in independent politics. You got Tom Tancredo, very tough on the border, very anti-illegal immigration. Some of these people, Brownback, have their own approaches to the war in Iraq that aren't necessarily the party line so far. Will they be the ones taking shots at the frontrunners?
I think so. I think you'll see Ron Paul develop as the Kucinich of this group. You know, he's very anti-war, and he'll do that. And then you'll see Tom, you know, from Colorado,
Tancredo,
Tancredo, right. He's going to go after them on immigration. I mean, that's his big thing, border control. He's probably going to go after McCain for flip-flopping a little bit, or hark back to McCain's alliance with Ted Kennedy. We probably will hear the big Kennedy name there. So I think yes, I think they will try to show that, and Brownback also, that they are individuals, they're different. And I think for Brownback, he's going to basically try to carve out a little bit of the base for himself. I mean, he believes that there's still some room in this whole big group of 10 for somebody with really core conservative values.
Yeah, well, I think that's very true, because there isn't really a, quote, easy conservative sell out there. A lot of these people have mixed records. Let me go to Howard. It seems to me that there's some openings here for these folks. You can go after Giuliani because he's pro-choice and says so. He's for funding of abortion for poor people. I mean, they could go after him on that, right? They could go after Mitt Romney for his record as a more moderate, or more liberal, even more tolerant governor of Massachusetts than most conservatives are on issues like gay rights and abortion rights.
Well, I think they could, and but I'm not sure that they will unless you ask them the questions that require them to. The reason is that nobody's so far ahead in this.
You mean I have to play hardball?
Yeah, you have to play hardball.
Okay, I'm just asking.
Nobody is so far ahead in this race that the others on the Republican side, that the Republicans have to gang up on them and drag them down.
Okay, let me challenge you, Howard. Let's have a debate here.
Okay.
Giuliani's at 39% in our poll, the NBC poll, which is godlike here. Okay, we like that, the Wall Street Journal poll. McCain's at 24. He's slipped a bit, but he's still way ahead of Romney's at 12. Now, he's broken into double digits. That's interesting. The people who say none of the above or haven't figured it out are only 11%. A lot of these people, John Harris, you pick up, these people have become committed already. It seems like even though it's way early, there are not that many undecideds floating out there.
Well, I would guess that some of that support is fluid, and so there are going to be people watching this debate. These are tentative judgments that people have made getting behind these candidates. They're not final judgments. But that's why events like this are important.
I just wonder whether we're going to see a real fight between the backbenchers and the leaders tomorrow, Thursday night.
Well, it's, you know, the 39% for Rudy is impressive in such a large field. I grant you that. And maybe one way that you impress the base is by attacking Rudy on some of those issues. So that could happen. I agree with you, that could happen. But it's not like he's running away with the thing right now. The feel of it out there is that he is dropping back into the pack just a little bit, and there's plenty of time to take him down.
Who would you bet now? Who can you bet on now that might come from the back? Somebody who's a comer. Who can come from the back and break into the top three, make it a top four?
Well, I hate to mention any of the people who aren't going to be on the stage on Thursday night, but you still have at least 3 more candidates who could get in this thing.
Yeah.
Fred Thompson, Newt Gingrich, and I still think Chuck Hagel, who is the real anti-war candidate.
He would shake things up.
He would shake things up enormously. It's only May of the year before.
Well, let me give you a reason. Not that I want to bring extra added attractions beyond what we can present Thursday night. But the latest polling in Iowa, the first in the nation test, says that 50-some% of Republicans who are going to vote in that caucus think we should be out of Iraq in 6 months. They are in tune more with Hagel than the others.
There's got to be somebody other than Ron Paul, with all due respect to Ron Paul, to pick up that standing.
But as they once said in an old Walt Disney movie, it's what you do with what